Hi, my name is Malia Corsino, and for my research presentation, I have decided to choose a topic on child abuse. The overview for child abuse is that child abuse is a mistreatment or neglect by a parent or caregiver towards children. And with child abuse, there are four main categories of different abuse, such as physical abuse, psychological and emotional abuse, sexual abuse, and neglect. And this is all referring to the textbook Child Growth and Development by author Jennifer Paris and other authors as well. And the picture on the right is just kind of a visual of how child maltreatment or child abuse is in the center of it all. And there are different forms of abuse, which are the ones that are listed that I had just discussed and on the left of the screen. Physical abuse is consisted of intentional physical acts by a parent or caregiver. Um, Different examples of physical abuse could be hitting, kicking, pinching, and choking, and also signs of physical abuse that people can physically see on children would be bruising, cuts, broken bones, or burn marks. And this is just a few of the examples and signs. There are many more, but um, there's some that are discussed right now. And this is all referring to the same textbook, Child Growth and Development, and by an academic journal by author Divya Mehta and other authors as well, titled Child Maltreatment and Long-Term Physical and Mental Health Outcomes. For psychological and emotional abuse, this involves hostile interactions with constant unavailability to a child's needs and lack of acknowledgement towards a child. Um, and some examples of this type of abuse would be shaming, degrading, rejection, or ignoring. And this is all towards children. And this is in the same academic journal as stated in the last slide by author Divya Mehta and others. For sexual abuse, this includes sexual acts on a child by an adult. Um, this is when a child doesn't provide consent, which is completely out of their control. Possible effects of sexual abuse can be self blame, guilt, flashbacks, and nightmares for children. Um, and this is all referring to the academic journal that was mentioned in the previous slides. And these two facts on the bottom are referred from the textbook, um, which states 15% to 25% of women were sexually abused when they were kids, and 5% to 15% of men were sexually abused when they were kids. So those are just a couple facts about this type of abuse. For neglect, this is when someone is taking care of someone who cannot care for themselves but fails to give adequate care. And just to clarify, the person who is taking care of the other person who cannot care for themselves is when they are failing to give the person who needs the help, they're not giving them adequate care. Um, just to clarify that. So again, this refers to the same textbook and the same journal. Um, and the textbook talks about how neglect is known as a passive form of abuse. 91,000 cases of neglect found in 1 year by protective services agencies. And neglect includes multiple dimensions that include medical, emotional, environmental, physical, and other forms of neglect. So there is not just one specific thing always. There can be multiple dimensions, as it says, or forms. The cultural impact of child abuse is very different amongst other cultures. Different cultures have different views and perspectives on abuse, and it has a lot to do with how the children are raised and how the different beliefs um, that are believed among the cultures. Um, and in another academic journal by author Jerusha Sanjeevi and other authors, um, in journal titled A Review of Child Sexual Abuse. Um, there's an example which I have put on the slide, which says in Ghana, there are traditional beliefs about rape myths that are normalized or justified when there is sexual violence against children. Um, so, with this, the survivor bringing up this issue can cause shame upon the family, um, which is causing fear in the survivor to come forward with sexual abuse just for what they believe and how it might bring the family down. And this is just simply from their beliefs and their culture. So it's very different for child abuse in general and what other cultures think of it. For the economic impact, the economic costs are very high due to health and social consequences when it comes to violence against children. And dramatic changes in costs from violence to children are mainly in households, communities, and nations. And so this is all referring to an academic journal by author Susan D. Hillis and other authors titled The Enduring Impact of Violence Against Children. Um, and on the bottom, it also states with the consequences of violence against children, the economic costs evaluated and exceeded to $120 billion in the US. The political impact of child abuse. There are issues that have remained in American political debates, and these include teenage pregnancy, violent crime, drug and alcohol abuse, and suicide. And this is all according to another academic journal by author Nigel Pardon, titled The Contemporary Politics of Child Protection. And it is reported that the effects of child abuse raised, or the effects of child abuse raised the American violent crime perpetration by 40% and overall crime by 70%. The communities and populations that are the most affected by child abuse include children living in orphanages, those that are affected by a crisis, children outside family care, and street children. And this is according to um, Susan D. Hillis's academic journal, which is The Enduring Impact of Violence Against Children. Um, it also states that there have been many studies that have found children who are highly vulnerable are more likely to experience some form of child abuse. And the ones that are listed are the ones that are most affected or targeted. For the conclusion, child abuse is unfortunately a big issue in today's society and needs to be talked about constantly. Um, the importance of this topic is so children are able to communicate with parents, adults, and others that surround them in an efficient way, with an understanding that there will be no trouble that the child will be in, children who experience any form of abuse can learn their strengths and capability of being safe and protected. And this is all according to healthychildren.org, a website, and it's titled Child Abuse and Neglect. And that is the main um, topic of the website. And yeah, that is my presentation. The next slides are my references. And then I have one more slide. And that is it. Thank you.